Hello, this is another ad hoc, tough video, tell a friend video on this time the Corona exit strategy. I think all is being said on that we can now remove the measures for the normal population and just use measures to protect the risk groups, the weak and old and the people with preconditions. Now, this video is about how can the main players get out of this mess which they self-created. So I write something like self-created. Yeah. And how do they get out without, so not losing face, and without court trials, so without actually facing really legal actions against them. And obviously what they want to try, this is what they will try, is they sell themselves as saviors of the world. That is what they will try to sell themselves. Now, look at the whole situation. If I take the example of Germany. Germany is about a population of 80 million people. So you will have here Germany, 80 million people. And so I would write population. Yeah. And now you have the government, and they informed the population what they will do, the measures, so they informed them and forced these measures and some laws onto them. Now there is the courts, so courts, the legislation. No, there is the legislation, and then there's the police, which is the execution. So you have these three forces, and then obviously you have the journalist as maybe the fourth power in in the state. Now the thing is, in the center you will here have I would call it like that, the experts. So experts, and these are scientists and doctors, in virology and so on. And what the interesting thing is, and this is the big problem, that we actually only used 1% of these experts to look at. All the others, so 99 of the good ones or careful ones, or I don't know how many of those, some of them, I'll come later to that, will kind of not do anything. So, but we will have like 1% of these experts that the government looks at, and that in many cases also the journalists look at, and the journalists just want to have lots of dead people, rest in peace. They want terror and so on. That is what the journalists want. So that is their goal. But the government just wants to say, okay, these doctors, and this is why, the Corona exit strategy, what will they say? So the government will actually say, so I write here, the excuses. Yeah, the excuses will be, I did not know. Yeah, because they informed me wrong. So I did not have good numbers, or I write good numbers but valid numbers or so on. They got them from them. And virus was dangerous. Yeah, which is true. Some people died of it, so yes. And they will say, as fourth thing, obviously, we did the right thing. So that is, so here, sell them as we are the heroes. So heroes. Yeah, that's what they want to to be afterwards. So these are the excuses, and then they top it with being the hero. Now, what happened is that obviously now the courts then always looked at the government, and the police looked at the courts and the government. The journalists, they looked at these numbers, and obviously also, like at police, they informed, and so they kind of, so it was kind of a kind of a turbo, so a hurricane. So it was, they all wanted to have something. These 1% of the scientists wanted to be in the press. They couldn't go back. The government can't go back. Nobody can go back, and they just don't want to go back. Now, one of the things I'd like to look at the population, because the population also played in this whole game, in this whole kind of self multiplying hurricane. And that is because if you now look at the population, I think there will be just about 1,000, let's say put thousands of people that are dedicated people, so very, very, very few that would actually invest time, energy, money, and so on to kind of, fight this whole system, which is almost impossible to fight, because, there is this one interest behind it. I put it here as number 5, the economy, but just part of the economy, part of the, like the medical companies and so on. So there might be some companies that actually say we profit off this whole thing, so they support this. And now if you look at the population, actually the population, and I write that in red, is we want severe punishments, severe actions, yeah? That's what they want. So that's actually, so that is why this is self-multiplying thing here. The government says, yeah, fine, we want measures, and they want even harder measures, so they hit us harder. And I was really puzzled when about 3 weeks ago, Angela Merkel said, this is comparable to World War II. And I thought, this is a flu. So she compares, I wrote it in red, in dark red, so she compares a flu with 20 million rest in peace, killed people. Is that true? Plus, well, I don't want to mention the Jews, but another maybe 6 to 8 million Jews being killed. So she compares this to a flu? What is that? And so now I want to say one thing on the population. Obviously, these courts and the doctors and so on, they are also part of the population, but I kind of didn't put them in here. Obviously, the doctors also have family and so on, which are part, and they are part of the population. But what I wanted to say is that just very, very, very few people, they have YouTube channels, they actually invest money, they maybe do court trials, they maybe go against these decisions and so on. But this will be in the thousands. And then what will happen, because we are talking here about the exit strategy, that means what will happen in half a year, what will happen in a year or 2 years. And I think there will be, I should write them in green, so also it's very severe for them. There will be about 1 to 3% of people who are bankrupt, or or that are unemployed, caused by Corona. So, and these guys, while if you look at an individual, often, if you're unemployed, then you take that as a challenge, as an opportunity, and so on. But I don't want to go down that path. Obviously, for each one he can make out of such a disaster, economic disaster, he can make a restart of his life. Okay, fine. Everybody can do that. But these 1 to 3%, and calculate this here, let's say about 1 million people in the country will be in a really terrible situation. And I think these guys may take court trials and go against government, the courts, the journalists, and maybe even against some industry players that actually caused this whole disaster. And now my conclusion, because from what I've learned in the past, is that there will be, so what will happen, I'll write it in neutral, it was nothing will happen. Yeah, the virus will eventually, during the next few months, go away. They will be heroes, all these people will be heroes, the kind of people that went bankrupt, and also the ones that are really, really invested money and time and effort. People will laugh at them and say, why did you do that? You did the wrong thing, and now it's over. What do you talk about, and so on. So what I think is nothing will happen. We will go into business as usual, and what I only see as a big threat, and that is a huge threat, if there is like a mandatory vaccine. Yeah, that I think would be a disaster. So I really would like to avoid this, and then I might also kind of join these guys if there will be even harder measures put upon us, and have mandatory vaccine or medicine and so on. No, that then probably it's too much even for me. And for now, the corona didn't hurt me that much, except for it cost me maybe several €100,000, but that's just money, and it didn't cause me any psychological grief. It didn't cause me any health problem. So for me, corona is okay, but I will be really, really curious to see how these big players try to fiddle themselves out of this mess which they created. Comments are very welcome. I hope that was entertaining and useful, and talk to you later. I hope I see your comments. Thank you very much. Bye bye.